We're live. Welcome to the Maple Minds podcast. We look a little bit different. That's not Sherry, for instance. That is Rob. Sherry has decided to go in a different direction than the show. We said we'd be back in September, and then we weren't. But now we're back. We're ready to talk about all things politics, Canadian politics, the Americans, the loud neighbors, international politics. I'm Kristi. That's Rob. And over there is Maple Polly, who puts us on live. We're live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. We're going to start off today. Usually, when we were doing the show before we stopped for a bit of a break, we would do Canada on Tuesdays and then international on Fridays. Since we're just getting our feet wet and we're breaking Rob in, we're going to talk about everything. If you have any requests, make sure to leave it in the comments, or you can send us messages on our YouTube or our TikTok. If you're not already following our TikTok page, make sure you are. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. And again, we take questions at the end. You can send them at any time, but we're not ignoring you. If you're like, hey, what about my question? We will address the questions at the end if they come in. So let's just jump into it now. It's been 3 months. So we're going to start with Petition E-6679 for ethics. I had made a video about it yesterday because if you've watched any of my TikTok videos, I am bothered by bullshit. It drives me nuts that politicians are successful by lying to Canadians, not just bullshitting either, straight up lying. This petition, even if I don't believe it would be successful, I would still support it in the way that I think the government needs to hear how many Canadians are frustrated with bullshit. I think that bullshit has become the norm too much. It is too accepted. And if we accept it too much, pretty soon we watch guys saying, hey, they're eating cats and dogs, and then we vote for them. And I don't want to be in that position.
100%. I signed it.
Yeah.
I think when I signed it, there's only about 28,000 signatures at the time. But
they have until November 27th.
I don't understand. I don't think this is even a left or right or any of that garbage. This is just plain simple. They got to tell the truth. They got to stop lying and deceiving people. The misinformation, it's absolutely ridiculous right now. And it's getting worse. That's the problem, is it's getting worse because it's working. Because people are either too brain dead to even understand the truth, or they're just so by party lines that they want to be like, I know it's a lie, but I'm going to say it now too, because if I say it, then maybe I can convince other people. And that's insane.
The lying is interesting because I had somebody that I was engaging with who was hardcore Trump supporter. And I would ask him, like, you know that a trade deficit isn't the same as ripping somebody off. Which country actually pays the tariffs? And it was just about that. We could come up with the cats and dogs thing again, too. That this guy says stuff that's not true. And his reply was, he has a way with words. I can't. How do you know what he's being truthful about? Is there a code? Like when he's like doing something, he's telling, like, how do you support somebody if you don't know when they're being truthful and when they're not being truthful?
I feel like recently that one individual is pretty much not truthful the entire time. He's always constantly trying to swing things, misinform people. It's just blatant lying half the time. And you have to sit there and go like, how is this even working? Like, how it doesn't make sense to me.
And they don't have to answer to how it doesn't make sense. When you watch Poilievre, like, we'll bring the ostrich situation up. This man will never, ever put his stance on whether or not he believes those ostriches should be culled. Because if he takes the side of, let's say, law and order, because it is in the law, it's in our trade practices, if he says that, then he's going to alienate everybody who's cheering for the ostriches. And everybody, show me anybody who's cheering for the ostriches who's not on that side of politics. Everybody that I've seen, it's the Freedom Convoy moved to the ostrich farm with a few new people. That's what it feels like.
Oh, 100%. Or just the simple fact that when we talk about that proposed pipeline through BC, where he said, oh, BCers, they're all for the pipeline. It's the Liberals that aren't for the pipeline. And then you're thinking to yourself,
Yeah.
well, the Liberals aren't even in government in BC. It's the NDP. So it's baffling how he's trying to swing it back to the Liberal government constantly.
Well, since I brought up the Freedom Convoy, I'm going to talk about like the same kind of strategy. When the convoy went to Ottawa, they were going for mostly provincial mandates, right? The only federal mandate was the border. And even if that they had been successful, they wouldn't be able to go across the border because the Americans had it anyways. So why do they focus all of their negative attention towards our capital instead of all of our premiers who were actually the ones that were policing the things that they were upset about? Because it is way easier to get people to be angry at one person than it is for them to be angry at 10 different people.
Especially when the 10 different people are from all different political spectrums. So it's
Yes.
not
And
just,
most of
yeah.
them are conservative. And they're very careful with their wording. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about because there's this idea I've heard from other people about how they just don't know better. Danielle Smith isn't smart enough to know how to say it properly, or yeah, they are smart enough to word it in a way that they can take something that came from a speck of truth somewhere and then spin it into putting a totally different image into their audience's mind, and they know what that image is going to be. It has nothing to do with a lack of intelligence and everything to do with people exploiting how busy people are, how short our attention spans are. The internet has taken our attention spans and put them to this much. We're so used to instant information, and you have my attention for 30 seconds, and if you don't keep it, I'm on to next. They're taking advantage of those kinds of things in order for political gain, but it isn't because they aren't smart enough. And it isn't because that the people who support them aren't smart enough either. There's a lot of things that go into the barriers of understanding or wanting to look stuff up. When they have this emotional thing going on and they have this idea that is making them feel a certain way, you cannot get them to look it up. It's
Yeah. They don't want to look it up. They don't want to know the truth. They want to roll with it because it makes them feel better. And they see it and they react. They're like, yeah, see, that's exactly it. Just like the food tax. It's
yeah,
not food tax.
it's no
It's not a
fucking food
tax.
tax.
What is happening here? But yet you go to the website, you look up on the conservative website. Yeah, he's going to axe the food tax. What food tax? Masters of spin, absolute masters of spin.
And the
And
way that they're spinning it is that they're saying, because when you look on the conservative website and in the big bold thing is the tax is only because it rhymes with axe. They already have thousands of people who they already have t-shirts that say axe the tax. They can
yeah,
keep going with this. It's easy to remember, but it isn't fair to say that it's a tax. It isn't fair to say they're saying that any government regulation that is going to cause private industry to charge more is a tax. And that's not fair to say because a tax is something that is paid to the government. Paying, let's say, when he called the EV mandates, he said you're going to be paying an extra $20,000 in tax because the car manufacturers might get charged 20,000 per vehicle that they fall short of the mandate. If you're paying more for a Mustang, that's not going to the government. That's going to Ford. That's not a tax because it's not going to the government. It's just an increased price because of government regulations. And I don't think it's fair to call that a tax. And it pisses me off that more media don't call it out and say, bullshit, why is that guy calling it a tax? They understand why he's calling it a tax. It's not right. They know the kind of picture they're putting into Canadians' minds.
that's why that petition is so important. We have to get to a point where we all know that what they're saying is the truth and it's not misinformation. It's not spinning things to try and enrage people. They're literally trying to incite that group of people that's going to take it and run with it and be angry and just make them angry. And if they, like, you're making people angry on purpose, and that's what they want. They want people to be angry and they want them to go out there and they want them to rage. And that's where we are right now. And that's sad. I love fantastic political debates when it's based on reality, where two people can go back and forth and they can debate issues and they can just have at it, but in a way that Nobody's lying. No one's misinforming anyone. It's just, this is real. And I think we've lost that. I think it's going away. And it's pretty sad to see.
Do you think it's savable?
I think society, I think what's happening right now is society has opened those doors to Pandora's box. And I don't know if it is capable because it's such an incredible strategy for different groups, whether or not you're far left or far right. I think everyone tries to incite their people in certain ways. It's working. I
Of
think as
course
a
it's working.
society, if we were smarter as a group of people, if we called out the stupidity, and we all did, and we didn't get rage baited by these people, then yeah, it might be salvageable, but I don't think society's there yet.
I don't
They
think so
they
either.
like it. They like it.
Uh, there's too many people who enjoy the rage. Personally, and I've been on TikTok for 3 years now. I've said this almost every day that I'm on here, is that rage is so much more powerful than almost any other emotion. When you think about, you can be in the best mood. You're skipping along the street, you're whistling, you're in a great mood. How hard
Who
is
winks
it?
at people, Kristi? Who winks at what? What? I'm just watching you walk down the street winking at me.
Okay,
Hey,
that part's creepy.
but
Don't do
what's in
that.
your eye? You got something in your eye? Something going on? What's happening there?
I was
That's
trying to paint
hilarious.
a picture of a
I saw the
joyful
picture.
person who was happy in their surroundings, and I'm
Saw
like,
the
oh, didn't
picture.
I?
I thought it was hilarious until the winking. I was like, I can't keep going with the winking here. Could you
Find that
imagine if I was
non-creepy.
going around smiling and waving and winking at people? That'd be creepy. Super. I'd get arrested. Like someone would call somebody on me. 100%.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's go back
And
to the
now I
picture
have that
without the
picture in my
winking.
head. Okay, so back to my point. Let's say you're in a fantastic mood, you're humming to yourself,
Oh,
right?
perfect.
And not being creepy, but you got to skip in your step. How hard is it for one asshole to come by and say or do the wrong thing and it flies you into a rage? Not all the time, but it's depending on the action, depending on the offense. It's easy to go from super happy to I want to rage very quickly. Whereas if you're already in a rage, if you're seeing red and you got steam coming out of your ears, how easy is it for somebody to come and knock that into a more positive space? I think that first of all, rage is harder to stop, and it's easier to interrupt.
If I'm in a great mood and someone's like cutting you off and doing whatever, you're whatever. Obviously, they want to get somewhere quicker, blah, blah. Because I'm in a decent mood. I'm not even worried about it. If I'm in a bad mood and someone cuts me off and down, oh man, I lose it. I absolutely
Yeah,
lose it. I think a lot of people are just not in good moods lately.
yeah.
Everyone's all up on all these things and they have these triggers, whether you're on the left or whether or not you're on the right. I think everyone has triggers. And it's those people that are pushing those buttons to keep triggering people to be angry. They really want people to be angry. That's the problem. On both.
I think it's a good point when you said it's not a right or a left thing, because I don't believe that our triggers have anything to do with politics. I think everybody's individual triggers has to do with their own life experience, their childhoods, how they are interacting with society at the moment. Everything is personal, but I think that politics is exploiting that we all have triggers, and they're telling us where to put our rage. So if you are in a bad mood and you're losing it in road rage or whatever, and legally you can't get out and do something about
And
it.
do what
So
you
it
want to
sits
do.
there.
Yeah.
It sits in there, and maybe it settles down a while, but then the rage baiters come by and then they pick everything that we couldn't take action on. Why don't you come and join us? You can take action on this.
Yeah.
Right now,
100%.
Jamil Giovanni is really taking advantage of that. Are you familiar with him? He's good friends with JD Vance. I think he was in his wedding. He's an MP in Toronto, and he's going on a campus tour to tell young men that they're victims of feminism and war on Christianity and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's what he's going to say, but
All
that
these
if you follow him on X,
universities,
that's his message.
all these
So
guys going to universities trying to indoctrinate the younger generation or
yeah,
rape debate them or just do whatever. Just stay out of the
while
universities. Stay
yeah,
out of them. Leave them alone. Let them learn. Let them do
they
what they
talk
need to
about too.
do.
They talk about wanting to shut them down. They disagree with them. They think that the universities are indoctrination factories, and that's why they don't want them to exist too.
Depends on what's happening in those universities. If there's room for free thinking. And I have my own thoughts on the whole education system and what
Oh,
it's actually geared for. But
I think probably we agree too.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
probably.
for another show, we'll try to get this one back to Canada. You spoke briefly about Smith and the pipeline and
Okay.
how she was a bit bullshitty about it. And I think, and I talked about how she was careful with her words. And the way she was careful with her words was calling it a proposal. We're announcing a proposal. We're announcing, she made it sound like a plan, and it isn't a plan, it's an idea.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
big difference between a plan and an idea. An idea is I want to do this, and a plan is I am doing this. There is no plan yet. There's no money. $14 million. Somebody else pointed out that's like a couple of weeks of media. That's not like this $1 billion project doesn't want to pay for it. There were some people, some political experts discussing about how this is like a feeler bet. This has nothing to do with David Eby and everything to do with, will Mark Carney make comment on the tanker ban and the Indigenous community maybe that's speaking against it too. Did you hear her answer for that? We have Indigenous people in Alberta who let us do stuff here.
Yeah.
Indigenous people are not part of one tribe all across Canada. They're different.
I think it's funny though. What do you think of the timing too, just after Truth and Reconciliation Day, like to start poking that bear?
I think it's better than had she done it on the day, but I do believe that it was planned to be close to it. Yep, I absolutely think it was planned to be very close to it. If you notice, this is when all the denial on social media about what happened in residential schools is on social media at any given time, of any given day, but it is arguably stronger around National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
Oh, about
Lindsay
the
Shepherd,
yeah, like
I think she
what?
was from BC actually, but she
Jeez.
was a communications person for the Conservative Party of BC, and John Rustad fired her for an ignorant tweet that she had put up on Truth and Reconciliation Day with, pardon me quoting her, fake flag. It's just, it was gross. It was super gross. This is not something that should be up for debate after the government has admitted that atrocities happen there. And when you put it up for debate, I think it's like, it's not even to say that it's disrespectful to the Indigenous communities, because that is not nearly as strong of a word. It is true, it is disrespectful, but a more accurate word would be harmful. When they do that, they're adding to the stereotypes and to the racism that hurts Indigenous communities. And John Rustad, if I may remind everybody, and that Lindsay person, I don't know how old she was, this Lindsay person who got fired, but perhaps she doesn't remember that John Rustad was the Minister for Indigenous Affairs for Kristi Clark. I don't believe he's going to be on the pro denial side of this,
Yeah.
personally.
And regardless of anything, the whole premise of residential school pulling kids away from their families, just that alone, let alone any of the other things, was extremely harmful to the culture and the people. Like I don't understand how anyone could even remotely talk about the opposite to that.
Yeah.
It's too much for me.
Another argument that I'd heard, and actually Stephen Harper had slid it in to his apology in 2008, was some people had a positive experience, or some white kids went there too. And I think that's just the shittiest argument in the world. If you went by that logic, it wasn't everybody, then you would never prosecute any crime at any time, because it's not happening to 100% of the population. Oh, we're okay with people sexually abusing children because other children aren't sexually abused. It's a shit argument. Shit argument.
Ah, yeah.
Sorry, I promised Polly I would try to swear less.
Oh,
Now we're past the 20-minute mark too, so let's move to the US of A. Unless there's anything
well,
else you wanted to talk about Canadian.
no, let's go.
Let's move to the loud, arrogant. Here's the thing. I'm just going to start this by saying I've traveled to Asia, South America, Europe, the South Pacific. Every single country where I've engaged talking to people about Americans has demonstrated that the Americans' idea of their reputation is far from their actual international reputation. What happens when you travel and you have this accent? Because a lot of people international can't hear the about. They think that, oh, you're American immediately, and then I'm Canadian. And then as
I'm
soon as they,
Canadian, eh?
yeah, they all do that. Oh, you're Canadian, eh? I say a lot too, though. And then they always want to give you their opinions of Americans and their affection for the firearms.
Well, here's the funny thing is, though, even 10 years ago, I knew Americans that when they traveled overseas would actually put Canadian flags on their bags.
Yep.
And you're like, that's something, right? That says something.
It does. And I wish that they would talk to all of the other loud, arrogant Americans who are telling us you're going to be the 51st state because without us, you're nothing. We're the biggest, toughest guys. Like they look in the mirror and they see tens, man. And the rest of the world looks at them. And the number is a lot lower. I'm just saying.
I think it's tough because during World War II, US really started becoming an economic powerhouse by staying out of the war and pushing ammunitions, and they were building and they were making money while the rest of the world was suffering in a war. And then they jumped in eventually, but they rose, right, as a country and it became very powerful. And then that's when we talk about hegemonic stability theory and all of that fun stuff. But I don't think the US understands that they've now they're now coming down the other side of the hill. They're no longer rising in the international world. They're actually falling. And I think for them, it's hard because they always think that they are number one
Yes.
and they're always going to be out there and they're the big dogs. But I don't think they realize that, especially under Trump now, is they really are falling in the international community. And I think it's hard for people when they used to think, hey, I'm number one,
Yep.
and now go, you're not. And
I
it's
also
all
think that they're not, I think that they are super falling from international ranks. Did you see the clip where there was a Democratic, I believe she's a senator, she was calling out Mike Johnson, saying the president's unwell. And she said, our enemies are laughing at us. I think there's some people who realize what's happening to the United States internationally, but domestically too. So Trump fired the person who had brought job numbers out. Right now, they would have released job numbers today, but because the government is shut down at the moment, they don't have job numbers. But there was an independent report about job numbers that came out, I think, yesterday or the day before. It was from a company that handles payroll for non government jobs. And they came out with a report that showed that the states lost 32,000 jobs in September. They reported a big drop of numbers, but then they reported that where the job losses were. Small companies got hit the worst, medium sized companies got hit the second worst. So both of them saw a decline in jobs. And then the large companies, those guys got more jobs. Medium and smaller companies are not going to survive the kind of trade war that he is inviting. Larger companies can wait it out a little bit more. They have more capital to sit on to wait it out until it comes into their favor, but it's going to come into their favor at the expense of small and medium sized companies. And when they're weak, the bigger companies are going to come and pac man them all up. They're just
yep.
going to come until there's maybe 12 to 14 guys running every single industry in that country.
But that's what the US wants. That's their whole plan. That is their plan, to keep the majority of Americans subservient to the large corporations. Don't go to school, just go out there and work for Walmart. Don't think about your lives. Watch Honey Boo. See what's next on Love Island. Don't worry about the world around you. Just go to work, make money for the billionaires. Don't say boo. Hey, well, what's coming up next on Love Island 2 or whatever it is. But anyway, uh, yeah, they're not so great live. It's
Yeah.
it's sad that people don't realize that what's really happening, and it's happening. They want the money into those large corporations. The taxes or the tariffs that are out there, small companies, independent people, they're never going to get past it. Large corporations can negotiate certain things with other countries. If you've got a large tariff with another country, you can go to those manufacturers and say, hey, can you reduce the price of each item so that I'm not paying as much in taxes? And on the reverse side, they can then charge them an administration fee that would not be tariff. It's just an administration fee. So those fees can go elsewhere, not all of them, but they can negotiate that stuff. Most of the other independent or small companies, they have no buying power. They have no way of doing that. So
That's what it is, the buying power. They don't have, it's just another example, whether you're talking about a billionaire or a big business, they have the advantage, they have the cards, so to
yeah,
speak.
They also have, and you and I know this as well, they have the ability to still make money in other facets. So
Yes.
our profits are down. Maybe we don't need so many people working this week. So
Yes.
we don't have to pay out as much money to our employees for this week. So we can end up showing some profits at the end of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Labor.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. They still have jobs, but instead of getting 30 hours a week, now they're only going to get 15. And the people that are coming into to shop or receive products from these places, they're the ones that are going to pay with the poor service. But it won't matter because at the end of the day, they're large corporations. People are still going to buy from them and do things from them. And they're just going to save money in other ways. That's just, they're going to ride it out. It is what it is. It's big
Yeah.
business. We know that's going to happen.
The labor lever makes the most difference because labor is your biggest controllable cost. You got a lot of
Yeah.
people who are in those jobs who live paycheck to paycheck,
Yeah.
and they rely on their paycheck being a certain amount. And if they're getting 30 hours a week consistently, they plan their lives over how much that looks like on a
Yeah.
paycheck. And then at the end of some quarter, all of a sudden the paycheck is half the amount. I think it's shitty.
Yeah, I'm going to spend this much money. And I would never expect anyone, especially anyone who's only working part-time and working 24 to 30 hours a week, who go out there and be like, I can afford a cell phone. I can maybe get a car payment. I can do all these things. And then all of a sudden your hours are slashed in half. Now you can't make that car payment. Now you're not paying your cell phone, or what are you doing?
And you didn't
And
know a month ago that it was going to happen, so you could have planned accordingly.
exactly. And that's where you can see if the tariffs continue, the trade deal or trade, if it continues, you can see how a recession is there. People are going to start making less money. They're going to be out of jobs. There's going to be less money to go buy goods. And if people aren't buying goods, especially the frivolous stuff, those industries are going to get hit hard. It's going to be interesting to see. It really is, especially down in the US, right?
Yep.
So,
And it's not just about the industries because it's not realistic to feel empathy for an industry, but people work for the industries.
yeah.
So when an industry suffers, the people who have those jobs, who rely on those jobs to feed their families, that's who gets hurt. And the people making these decisions and the people pushing this forward don't give a shit.
No, the people making $10 million a year as the CEOs of the company, they're making $10 million a year. They're going to make the $10 million a year no matter what. It's the people that are making minimum wage, working 30 hours a week, that are going to go down to 15 hours a week because we're not selling the products that we should
And
have to
even
make the
if,
money that we need to.
even if you were a CEO who faced the same sort of cut and your salary got cut, it wouldn't be all in salary, it'd be in compensation too. But let's say your pay gets cut and you get only 5 million a year. You don't need that much more than everybody else. I understand wanting to have nicer things. I understand the desire, the ambition to make more money and to get nicer things. I don't understand how, as a society, we can allow the gap to continue to widen. Nobody needs to be a billionaire, man. And there's such a huge difference between millionaires and billionaires. So I'm
Yeah.
not saying nobody deserves to be a millionaire. I'm fine with millionaires. I'm not okay with billionaires. There's no such thing as an ethical billionaire.
I personally find it disheartening to think of a CEO making $10 million a year. And the majority of people that are working there are all at minimum wage. We're scraping by. Meanwhile, this person's making 10 million and the shareholders are making a ton of money because the company's making a ton of money. But everyone that puts in the work and does the stuff,
Yes.
to make that company run, is barely feeding their families. It's baffling to me as a society how we get so trapped in this cycle. And it's the cycle of the United States, is that's what they want down there for sure. Obviously, it's happening up here as well in
Yep.
Canada, but in the US, that is their model. That's what
Yep.
they want. Keep people impoverished and just completely oblivious to everything else that's going on. Keep them entertained.
You
Should
see
we
the
give them a
movie?
good deal on TV, on all the different TV channels and whatever, so that they don't think about anything else? All right.
Have you seen the movie Don't Look Up?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, Rob, you have to see that movie. It's exactly what you're describing. So it's about these two scientists, Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio, who know
Oh,
that.
I saw the trailer for that.
And it's all about how they're trying to warn everybody, hey, the asteroid's going to hit Earth. Like we're all about to die. And
Yeah.
everybody's, oh, look at what this social media person is doing. Oh, look at that shiny object. And they just can't hear the message because they're so absorbed in superficial things.
Yeah.
which is what's happening right now.
Totally what's happening right now.
But
Actually,
that's how it's always been, even right back to the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, when all the people started getting a little antsy about what's going on and started looking at what's the government doing, what are we? They go, oh hey, guess what? We're gonna have a big show. Come on out and watch people die.
you entertained.
For months after that, everyone was all buzzing and their lives were better because they got to see these gladiators or whatever the show was at the time, and they totally forgot about their crappy lives.
Good catch.
Yeah. And it's been used ever since. It really has. It's just keep the people poor, keep them entertained.
I also think that the timing is intentional. So, something that I noticed when I was working with the public for decades was I noticed the pattern of when society is in a good mood and when it starts to go away. It starts to go away in the fall when kids go back to school and the crappy weather. Kids go back to school, the weather's getting a bit colder, people's moods change. Around Christmas time, they get even worse because everybody's so stressed out about how much they got to pay. And just watch people how they treat their kids at the grocery store. You can get a feeling for what the mood is in different months of the year. In the summertime, people are in better moods. On spring break, people are in better moods. In the fall, people are in the worst moods. It starts to lift in around March and April when people start to get their tax returns back, the weather starts lifting and stuff. And when you look at the timing of Pierre going after grocery prices, which the government can't control, there's so little that the government could do to control the grocery prices, because all the things that they're talking about that go into grocery prices, that's in other pricing too. It's not just in food. There's very little. It's like under a percent of I think it's under 0.5% too of what the government can affect food prices by. But Pierre knows that most people don't know that. He knows that they're going to remember axe the tax. It's a snappy little saying. And he puts it out at a time when the mood is shifting. I think
Yeah.
the timing is intentional.
I'm still upset with Jagmeet Singh when he started going after the grocery stores.
Yes.
It was all a smokescreen. The problem that I have with him going after the grocery stores, and this might upset people or people might not realize this, but the grocery stores are still going to make money. Yeah, of course they're going to make money. And they do determine the prices to a certain degree of what the products are. But what people don't understand is you've got the raw materials, those prices go up. The transportation of the raw materials has gone up. Then you have the manufacturing of the raw materials into whatever it is. Let's just say it's Lay's potato chips, right? So now you've got the manufacturing, you've got the oil went up by 128% that the Lay's potato chips are made with. And now the actual costing of those items have now skyrocketed by 200% before they even hit the grocery stores. And so when people are talking about record profits, they're not realizing that those record profits stemmed from all of the manufacturing that's happening. And then after the manufacturing, you've got the transportation and the warehouse costings. So now you've got transportation again, you got warehouse costs again, and then you have transportation costs again before that food even hits the shelves of the grocery store.
Yeah.
So if a grocery store is going to try to make 20% off of their items, which they're always going to try and let's say 24% is a good number for them so that they can make some money and still be able to pay people. That item that once was $1 coming to them and they put it up to $1.24 is now coming to them at $2. So if they even just go at 20% and they take a smaller GP of that, you're now looking at 40 cents. So they're making 40 cents profit versus the 24 cents profit, but they're actually taking a smaller gross percentage of the item. And I don't think people understand that. So the food costing starts from the bottom. And by the time it makes it to the grocery stores, we're vilifying the grocery stores for just doing what they've always done. But we're not looking at the raw goods, the transportation costs, the manufacturing costs, or even the transportation cost again, and then the warehousing costs, and then the transportation costs again. And it's baffling to me that people just focus on these grocery stores who aren't doing anything different than they were doing before. Are they supposed
I
to just
also
not make
think
profits?
I also think when the Trudeau government got all the CEOs up there, and so first of all, I agree with everything that you said about the things that go into the costing of food. If you wanted to see fairer pricing to Canadians, I think that would come in competition. You got three Canadians and two Americans running every single grocery store in the entire country. One hand, two Americans, three Canadians. That's it. If you brought in more competition, that's the only way. Because any other way for the government to control any pricing, we would call government overreach. We would say the government shouldn't be capping how much I can make, but I do believe that they should be more careful in allowing the bigger companies to gobble up the smaller companies until there's only one company left. So I think that comes in with competition. I think that the government needs to strengthen their competition bureau. The competition bureau said, and I'm going away from groceries, but just to pick on the competition bureau here for a minute, they said that Rogers shouldn't be allowed to buy up Shaw because then they would create a monopoly. Guess
Yeah.
who owns Shaw? Right? Give the competition a backbone to prevent the monopolies, to prevent the smaller guys from becoming so big that they gobble up the smaller guys, give smaller guys a chance. Bring in, that's what I would do. If I was Carney, I'd be calling Aldi right now, be calling Germany, going, hey, send in your big guy grocery store. And then I would also be creating programs to let smaller companies come and have smaller grocery stores without having to be a franchise for one of the three guys.
The other thing is that for consumers out there, if you really want to affect the prices of groceries, don't just buy whatever you want when you go to a grocery store. Buy the stuff that's on sale. Like focus on the sales stuff because those are the loss leaders. Those are the things that the companies aren't making very much money on. But if you go out and you're like, I really need to get peanut butter. Oh, it's not on sale, but I'm still willing to spend $7 on this jar of peanut butter because I just want peanut butter. Guess what? You've just contributed to it. If you don't buy that jar of peanut butter because it's not on sale, the analytics are going to say, hey, we need to start putting some of this stuff on sale because we're backlogged on it. We're not even selling any of this stuff. So you got category teams that are going, okay, I think we need to do something about this so we can pump this through. So they're going to lower the prices of the items. If there's certain things that you want and they're not on sale, just leave them on the shelf. One day they're going to be on sale. Buy a couple of them then. Put them in your pantry. Do
Well,
those
some
little
of us
things.
live in tiny houses and don't have a lot of room to stockpile, but you make a good point. So I also believe that Pierre's crusade against grocery prices by going after carbon regulations or environmental regulations is just it's not good. The thing that affects food prices the most is the weather. When you have a bad crop or you have something in nature, avian flu. The thing that is pushing food prices up right now, food inflation in Canada is 3.5% compared to the Americans 3.2%, but that's largely driven by beef because of what happened years ago. You can't have a beef industry that goes through a drought just make new cows because cows don't come out as calves. It takes a while to get the industry back. So, right now, and that's just basic supply and demand that anybody from any industry should be able to understand. When your supply goes down, but your demand doesn't change, the price goes up. I remember the droughts in Spain. I remember the price of olives going through the roof. I remember the price of celery going through the roof. I remember charging $10 for a head of cauliflower. And those were all weather related instances.
Yeah. And that's really what it is. There's obviously the supply and demand. The lower the supply, the higher the demand, the higher people are going to want to make money off of it. Hey, I can only produce 10 of these. I used to produce 100, but for me to survive, now I got to charge you these 10 the same price as what I would have charged you for 100 because
Yep.
I got to make my money. I got to still survive. Right. So I always say, man, just shop the deals. Shop the deals.
And
But
you
You know,
want to
go
pay
in and shop the deals.
more for poultry, keep supporting
the
because
ostrich farm, the ostrich farm, we have a $6.8 billion poultry industry in Canada that
Mhm,
has trade agreements for $1.75 billion
that's
of
right.
exports. And those rely on certain practices that were the same practices under Stephen Harper. This isn't, don't listen to Pierre and think that this is a liberal thing, because if Stephen Harper was the prime minister, the same laws were in place. And the CFIA isn't liberals. The CFIA are public service workers. It's ridiculous to think that an institution that is paid for by the federal government has all employees that vote for that party. What do you think happens when the Conservatives lost the election? You think that the CFIA just emptied out and then all the Liberals came in and filled up all the spots? No, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
gonna
they
hurt
changed
the
all the rules.
yeah, and it's gonna hurt the industry.
One other thing is when Rob said buy what you need, not like what you want, don't overbuy too. Like
Oh.
Canada's waste is 30%. As a country, we waste a third of our food. If waste comes down, the prices come down. If you aren't throwing as much food out, and it would have to be like as a country, because a lot of that waste is household, but not all of it. A lot of it is restaurant waste. A lot of it is grocery store waste. If we did what France did and made it illegal for businesses to throw out food, you would see less waste. Not the portions are freaking ridiculous. You know what? That's another thing I would do to reduce waste. I would make restaurants have menus that have small, medium, and large. Rob is twice my size, but we order from the same menu. It doesn't make sense that I'm going to eat as much as somebody who's a lot larger than me. Same menu.
I like the fact you at least gave the option of small, medium, and large, because I was going to lose my mind. You're like, make this portion smaller. I'm like, no, do not make
Not
them
for me.
smaller. What am I going to do? I won't even be able to go eat out anymore. It'd be costing me too much. I'd be like, I'll take 2 of this and 2 of that.
It's ridiculous to think that everybody can eat the same amount of portions. You don't do that when you're at your house. When I'm making dinner, I'm not giving my husband the same amount that I'm taking because he can eat way more than me. It's ridiculous that restaurants only have smaller portions available for seniors or kids, in my opinion. They would
No.
waste less.
100%. Or you get some sort of public shaming if you can't finish all your food. And be like, shame on you. Shame on
Actually,
you.
there's a place called the Elbow Room at the bottom of Davie. I don't know if it's still there. It was there like decades ago when I used to go, and it was super fun. But they had a rule that if you didn't finish your food, you had to donate to a Loving Spoonful, which is a charity that helps people with AIDS.
No, that's nice.
I donated every single time I was there because I can't finish my food. I can't do it. We got off track with the food pricing, but I know why. It's something that both of us are very passionate about. I get it. Just quickly, what do you think about the United States government shutdown?
If I see another Republican come out there and blame the Democrats for the shutdown, I'm going to lose my mind. But do you know what the funniest part was? If anyone can even look this up, Caroline Leavitt went on there and started blaming the Democrats for the shutdown. But then she basically threw out the threat afterwards, where she ended up saying, all it takes is for the Democrats to come back and vote in this bill, and all of this won't happen.
Yeah.
And you literally just said that this is all happening because they won't vote for your bill. You guys did this. Like, you can't sit there and blame the Democrats for it. You're basically trying to strong arm them in passing this bill that's going to raise the medical insurance on 15 million Americans through the roof, as much as 75% or more. And you're blaming them, but yet you just said it'll all go away.
I have
It'll
a
all go
question.
away. Yeah.
I have a question. Do you think that they're doing this to take focus away from the Epstein files?
They won't swear her in. So
Thank
They
you.
won't swear her in.
there's a
She'd be
big
the
rule.
218th signature.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
she would be the
she'll be
218th
elected,
signature
but
that they
won't
need.
swear her in. I don't believe that they're doing this for the sole purpose of distracting from the Epstein files. I believe that it is one of the perks of it. I think that they have an agenda for a lot of things. Project 2025 is another one. I'm going to try to make a video about that in a bit. So
Yeah.
I'm going to put together all the clips of Trump saying, no, I don't know anything about, I'm not doing this Project 25. No, I'm not doing it. And then yesterday he posted, hey, guess what I'm doing today? I'm meeting with the Project 2025 guy, and we're going to do some of the stuff that's in Project 2025.
Oh, he's literally basically coming up. Here's the thing is, he's now at a point where he feels that he can do no wrong. He can do whatever he wants on this high podium where he thinks my crap doesn't stink. and I can do whatever I want because I'm the all powerful Wizard of Oz. And I can tell you exactly what I'm going to do now. And there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. And he's laughing. He's laughing at everybody. He's laughing at all the people that voted him in, who believed him for everything that he said, that he's now lied about. And yet they're still following him.
I think his support is starting to chip. I think this isn't just about the Epstein thing, too. I think they're trying to avoid the midterms. I don't believe that they want to go to another election. I think he knows he's cooked in the midterms. I think that he's lost way too much support. There was a poll that came out about this shutdown, about what the Democrats want, and it showed that the majority of MAGA supporters support what the Democrats want. The Republicans are misrepresenting it. They're saying that the Democrats shut down government because they want illegal aliens to get Medicare. First of all, illegal immigrants are not eligible for the Medicare. So then they say when they're in an emergency room, listen, they're not going to turn away people in an emergency room. But what the Democrats want is the amount of compensation, because this is a bill that's going to Congress. And what Congress does is it approves money. And what they want is they want the money to reimburse hospitals for the services that they're providing. And so the Republicans want everybody to believe that it's just money for illegal immigrants, which it isn't at all. But then they're using the small amount that would be seen in hospitals. The thing is, their argument only works if only people who snuck into that country illegally are visiting hospitals, and that isn't the case. If any other American visits a hospital, they're going to want that hospital to be funded. If the Republicans get their way, you're going to see a lot of rural hospitals close down. You're going to see other hospitals get less staff. You're going to see less hospitals, less Americans getting treatment, not just the ones who snuck in.
And we see Canadians parroting this too, right? We see Canadians parroting these sorts of talking points about the illegal immigrants getting benefits. How do you get benefits if you're not documented? If you're not
You don't have a
legal?
social insurance number. How do you
You
get
have
benefits?
nothing. So how
Yeah.
would you get anything?
Yeah.
Come on. Common sense.
Go to a hospital and look at their board saying, this is how much it costs you if you're not a Canadian citizen. You know, that it's right there. It's that misinformation, right? People want to just pump it and rile up their group, put them angry about something.
When you talked about how Trump believes that he's on this pedestal and he's untouchable, I don't believe he got there by himself. I believe that the people, the Steve Bannons and the Steve Miller, all the Steves around him, I believe that they're pumping so much sunshine up this guy's ass and telling him things about how he's untouchable and how he's so powerful and how the whole world respects him and nobody's laughing at him. Are you kidding me? Did you see the stuff that happened in the UK when he went for the visit? They put up the big projector of him and Epstein. They had
That was the
they had
best.
a statue. They actually got a permit for that statue. That was where was it? I think it was outside of the White House or something.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because they showed it got taken down like a day later or something, but I just saw something that it got put back up.
If you saw it on social media, it must
Be
be
true. It looked the exact same as the other one.
So it's been an hour, but I just quickly want to touch on one super quick thing internationally first before we start signing off. China not buying any soybeans
Yeah.
at all. So right now what's happening, Donald Trump is saying we're going to take some of this, all this tariff money that he's telling everybody comes from other countries, but it doesn't. It comes from American businesses being charged to do business outside of America. He's saying that he's going to give them to farmers, but there's a lot of farmers who are saying we want trade, not aid. We want somebody just to buy our soybeans. And when somebody asked JD Vance about it, this guy with a straight face, the man who said we need to create stories sometimes about cats and dogs, this man said, oh, I asked China about that and they said it was Biden. You're telling me that China stops buying soybeans in 2018 when Biden wasn't the president? Who was the president in 2018? Who was that? Let me think.
I'm pretty sure it's the same guy that's in office now.
And then they stopped entirely. Then they made a deal that was going on. Trump comes back in and then they stop every single PO as of March 2025. Not a single soybean has gone to China. That's a huge business that they're losing. Huge. And they have nowhere else to go. They're going to waste a bunch of soybeans. Nobody else has a market. Who else has the market? China has the second biggest population.
Oh, yeah. They're scrambling right now. They are scrambling. I think they're looking to like Taiwan. They're absolutely scrambling. We know what's going to happen. But the sad thing is, no matter what, I think the saddest part is there are people out there in this world that could use that food.
Yeah.
And if this food goes bad because there's no, I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
This is just getting out of control.
I
I
said the
don't,
same thing during the convoy when the Coots blockade had happened, because I had heard that there was livestock trailers that were being blocked or whatever. And I'm like, what? Like, you can't just let all that die. And not just
yeah,
livestock, there was food deliveries too. You
yeah.
can't just let all the food die. 30% waste as a country, just saying. So I'm going to wrap up with something positive since you brought up another Asian country and talked about how the US was scrambling. I want to give a shout out to our Prime Minister, Mr. Mark Carney, for recognizing where Indonesia is going as an economy and securing that. I thought that was a smart move. I've heard Trump talk about how he has all the cards. I think Canada has the best card player, personally. And
Oh,
don't worry, I have criticisms of this man too. I just think that was a good move.
yeah. I think when it comes to economics, we definitely have the best economic card player. I'm not worried about the Canadian economy. I'm not worried about our trade or any of that stuff. I know that we're in pretty good hands when it comes to that.
I think we have other things to worry about with him, but I don't believe that's it. But that's where I will leave it. Let's go Tuesday, back on our regular schedule, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. BC time, because we're all from BC.
Yeah.
And you can find all of our other shows on our YouTube channel, which you should be subscribed to. Follow our TikTok page, and we will be back on Tuesday. That's my final thought. Rob, do you have any other final thoughts?
No, this was fun. I had fun.
Good. I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah, this is great.